it's going to be based slightly off what our community think?
Well, it's obviously clear as day what our community thinks. 93% of the community thinks that Turtle Esport will be taking this best of one series away from Brown Esports. I don't know if I'm going to agree with every single one of the viewers that is watching at home. Like we said, we personally don't know all too much about these two teams, except for the fact that they quite literally fought tooth and nail through the qualifiers to actually get here. So at this certain point, at least from our standpoint, it's kind of all up in the air to see exactly who's going to rise victorious. And given that it is a best of one series, as will be all of the matches throughout Season 2 of ACS, it's entirely possible that we see some really close-knit matches, either a 6-6 draw, or that one of the teams just gets a bit unlucky with the map, and then they get entirely steamrolled. But speaking of maps, we are going to be taking a look at exactly where we'll be visiting for our first best of one series tonight.
So as you can see right here, this is how the map ban played out in front of us. It was done earlier. You'll get to see right here how it played out. So Oregon, the first one off the board for Turtle, then Brown taking out Clubhouse, Cafe coming off next for Turtle, and then Consulate. Theme Park and Villa, the final two to go, and then we have Coastline is our choice, effectively by Brown Esports picking there between Villa and Coastline, two very different maps. So perhaps giving them a bit more of an edge than that community poll might suggest. You know, obviously when we do these community polls, you don't get to know who's going to have the map pick, but really I think that Brown Esports having that choice between Villa and Coastline, two incredibly different maps.
Yeah.
I'm expecting a slightly closer one, potentially, one that leans more into Brown Esports play style, perhaps, on Coastline.
I do remember that I did actually cast one of the qualifier matches that Brown Esports was playing earlier this month, or I believe it was actually last month, together with Grace, and I don't remember exactly which of the two teams that were playing, but I know for a fact that Brown Esports was in that qualifier match, and it was also playing on Coastline, in which they did manage to take quite a lot of rounds all to themselves and getting themselves some really, really easy victories, easy round wins. We already know for a fact that Coastline is a map that they are relatively proficient at, but against Turtle Esports, we're going to have to wait and see exactly how that one is going to play out in particular.
Worth noting as well that while they were going through those qualifiers, I am pretty certain they didn't have Temp on their lineup. A more recent addition given his role during UKIN. So
yes,
yeah, I think that just going to go back to that community poll, 93 to 7%. Obviously, some of you guys out there following these players, you may have your finger on the pulse in terms of who's the ones to watch out for. So definitely start cheering on your favorite players in chat and making sure that we know who to keep an eye on. Yeah, I'm excited to see, especially with the Coastline pick, how who's going to be the ones to step up. You expect your fraggers to take the forefront in this map, and I don't really know which one of these Brown Esports players is going to be the one to step up. From what I remember, Temp is not a massive fragger, so I'm going to be looking to coach Witsuka, Skills, and Mahi to see what's going on.
Yeah, okay.
So, unfortunately, it looks as though we went into that game without operator bans, so we're going to be having a quick rehost here, and we can maybe talk a little bit more about that 93 to 7 and 93 to 7%, and the fact that I don't expect it to be a 7-0.
No, not by any stretch of the imagination.
Yeah.
No, I mean, as far as Coastline is concerned, either one of these two teams, I would argue to a sense that they have an equal shot of rising victorious by the end of this map. Like we said, not all too much, but given the fact that there is 93% of the community in favor of Turtle Esports, you would expect them to have the upper hand in some shape or form, whether it be that they might just be the much more aggressive kind of squad on the attacking side, and they really just want to throw the ball in the court of Brown Esports and, you know, back them into a corner, as it were, put them into a really uncomfortable position. But like I said, as we know, Coastline, stereotypically known to be a very frag-heavy map, regardless of where you are on the attacker or defender side. And obviously with Turtle Esports starting off on the defensive side, I can't exactly put my finger on what it is, but that is quite the bold move to say the least. I'm not exactly sure if they have some really interesting pocket strategies which they are willing to throw out directly on day one, if they got some homework that they've done over the past couple of weeks against Brown Esports, or they just feel like asserting their dominance, and what better place to do that than Coastline as it is.
Yeah, well, I mean, you see on Coastline quite a lot of the time it is the more aggressive side that will sort of set the pace, and a lot of the time that is the defenders. It's one of these weird things in Siege where on defense you're usually the ones taking the initiative a lot of the time, especially on a map like Coastline where you look to those early picks, the run-outs that are quite often very sort of predictable, but they just favor the defenders so much. I'm thinking about that Aqua Balcony run out where you're so easily protected by that balcony, and you get all the time in the world to peek up and see the full body of an attacker. And you know, if you're taking that peek, then you're in the advantage. The same goes for the sauna run out, or even a run out onto that Hall of Fame balcony. There are just so many things that you need to watch out for in the very early round as an attacker. And sometimes picking defense first, despite it being, you know, a lot of the time sort of cited as an attacker favored map, maybe one of the only attacker favored maps in the comp pool. It's not necessarily the sort of shooting yourself in the foot that you might expect.
No, not really, not at all. And I did obviously want to touch on, obviously, as you stated, that the defensive side, or whoever actually starts off on the defense, which in this case would be Turtle Esports, you argued that they have the luxury to actually set the pace because of the nature of the map. Obviously, having all of those different sections that are just privy to a bunch of runouts, as you stated, the Aqua Balcony, and even a couple of spawn peaks through the service entrance from the sunrise windows. The only thing that really limits you is your imagination, but at the exact same time, one thing that could potentially limit Turtle Esports are the operator bans. We know for a fact that Valkyrie is an extraordinary operator on Coastline, and if she gets banned against Turtle Esports, that could potentially, you know, take them a step backwards. But at the exact same time, I don't think that that would be the case. Regardless of what the operator bans might be, I feel that Turtle Esports are comfortable with whatever is on their plate, and they can make do with whatever is handed their way. As soon as Brown Esports throws them a couple of lemons, instead of making lemonade, they'll just throw them right on back.
It's that kind of ranked mentality when going for the operator bans a lot of the time on this map. You think, oh, a lot on most other maps in the comp scene, you think, oh, we're going to be playing a fairly even split of attack rounds and defense rounds. Might go to 7-5, 7-4. So you're thinking about how you can ban operators based on your strategies, based on counter-stratting your opponents, based on what you've scrimmed with. If you're used to playing with that Thermite, then you make sure you let him through the ban phase. Obviously, he's fairly frequently let through the ban phase, but just as an example, on a map like Coastline, you are perhaps looking to just make sure that you shut it out as quickly as possible. And yeah, if you start on the attack, banning out Valkyrie, you know, making sure that they have Valkyrie less often than you know, or they have that tool at their disposal less often than you do if you were to let it through the ban phase. So here we are, finally moving on to the match, Turtle Esports versus Brown Esports. This is our second day of matches here at ACS, and I'm raring to go.
As am I. And one thing that I actually did want to bring up with you, Jerry, one thing that I think is definitely worth discussing, you know what, never mind. With the Ash ban coming out, everything that I wanted to talk about just immediately gets thrown out the window. But nevertheless, I am going to bring it to the table regardless. Over the past couple of weeks, when we've seen some of these Coastline matches, we have also seen quite a lot of teams start to try to shake things up in their own unique way. And I'm talking about bringing Fuse, for example, when you're attacking those first floor bomb sites. Obviously, he saw himself a really, really nice buff, getting himself an extra pouch of hockey pucks to just disperse across the entire first floor. And obviously, with the operator bans that we're seeing right now, Ash and Thatcher and Valkyrie, and then we're going to see the last one in a couple of seconds. But you know what that also means? That means that Hibana is going to be on the playing field, which is the single most viable hard breacher on this entire map. And that immediately and instantly makes second floor hookah and billiards defenses just a bit more difficult to actually hold on to.
Yeah, having that Hibana through does make that site a lot tougher. Also, notably, someone like Capital or a Smoke Operator or a Nomad,
A Gridlock.
they've all gone through. Yeah, Gridlock,
Mm-hmm.
they've all gone through, and they will all be available to the attackers to help with those executes. And to sort of return to a point we were making earlier about the advantages that a defender has early on,
Yeah.
it's usually that, the defense has the early round. And then as
Mm-hmm.
soon as the attackers are in the building, as long as they're at an even man count, then it's, the onus is on the attackers. They should leverage their advantage that the map gives them, knowing
Mm-hmm.
that there's very little maneuverability available for the defenders. But we're seeing a 6-pick here from the Frost to the Mirror. Maybe that's just a way of forcing Brown Esports to just look down every time they vault on in through a window. But the Mirror being hidden is also an interesting play there, because it means that perhaps that utility won't be as well prepared for on the side of Brown Esports. And look at that, they don't have the Hibana. In fact, there's very few real counters to the Mirror, and that's going to mean that Brown Esports are very limited in the kind of approaches that they can take to this bomb site.
I'd have to disagree with you on that one, because obviously the main thing that is going to be on your checklist when you're attacking kitchen and service is going to be taking top floor control. Now on the side of Turtle Esports, you've got 2 nitrocells to buy yourself some extra time and try to counter that as effectively as possible. But like I said, Brown Esports taking vertical control is going to be at the top of their checklist, and they've got the soft breachers to get the job done and destroy those mirror windows from above, which is something that Turtle Esports are going to potentially have to look out for.
We see the approach begin here from Brown Esports, getting as many players up to the roof as possible, because that's your safe spot, obviously. No one can peek you up there, at least for the most part, unless you're trying to hold on to those windows in the top floor from the sort of courtyard. These players repelling also need to watch their backs and their sides and their behinds, because runouts are definitely an option as well for these defenders. So looks like an early sort of push through here, trying to make sure they clear out Penthouse, complete that checklist. But look, they've got this Mirror to contend with. The hard pings come out onto her. She's being forced to back away, but Temp is just there and ready to snag it straight away.
That's unfortunate for Kurt, being the opening, or the first casualty, I should say, of this particular round. And obviously he was trying to deny as much real estate of Brown Esports, to the best of his abilities, but it sadly didn't work out. Penthouse is a very exposed portion of the top floor, and if you are not really aware of your own positioning, let alone where the attackers are trying to pinch you from, then you can obviously count on the fact that you won't remain alive for far too long. And that was the single person on the top floor who could actually directly contest the Penthouse, now gone on the side of Turtle Esports. Slacko, though, tossing out a nitrocell won't bear any fruit just yet, so he'll pick out that cardiac sensor to feed his teammates some live info in the meantime.
Apologies for the slightly pixelated feed, but I'm assured by our wonderful producer that this will be fixed very shortly, and it looks like it's steadily improving anyway on our end, so yeah, I hope that won't be too much of an issue moving forward. Slacko, or yeah, we called him Slacko?
I guess.
I guess Slacko, yeah.
Yeah, unless somebody tells us otherwise.
He's got full intel on those players directly above him, but that doesn't matter because he looks away at the wrong moment, and Skilts is there to find him from above. Doing that sledge is good work.
Yeah, definitely, and rightfully so. Brown Esports, they're making pretty good time as well. They've got 35 seconds left, and they've already dealt with 2 players, and right now, I believe that it's also ICM on the smoke who has just been dislodged into a very uncomfortable position. E1D comes right on out, and I believe the collapse onto the bomb site is imminent as Temp will remove the smoke in question out of play. Pulls out a goo mine as well as Coach, gets that diffuse plant right on down, and now it's all down to Torin, excuse me. But suddenly, oh, never mind. It actually is still all down to Torin in a 1v5 situation, who is stuck inside of the main lobby and is just peering towards that hatch. Frag grenade comes on out, but I don't see this one happening in any way, shape, or form, Jerry.
No, it's pretty much an impossible task. Lands a nice shot up there through the hatch, but it's immediately shut down at range by the Lion. They had full control of that site at the 2 versus 5, and it was just a formality at that point, really.
Yeah.
Props to Brown Esports for seeding that round out very convincingly.
The one thing that I really think we should discuss right now is obviously Turtle Esports' defense, because by the looks of it, things were relatively shaky. Things were relatively messy across the entire board. I wasn't really sold on the kind of strategy that they were trying to implement, whether it be a vertical hold, which we did see, some reminiscent portions and parts of, but at the exact same time, like, I didn't necessarily get struck with the feeling that they had entirely made up their mind. Do we go for a one-dimensional horizontal hold? Do we go for a vertical hold? They tried to implement a vertical hold with that mirror window up inside of theater room. There was nobody to play on it, and the mirror in question, Kurt, got dislodged and killed extraordinarily quickly. And at that certain point, I felt as if Turtle Esports, they had to basically do just, what their name actually is, turtle back towards the bomb sites. And at that certain point, they were just sitting ducks, and Brown Esports, they had free reign over the entire map. Turtle Esports didn't necessarily seem as if they had a proper grasp or a proper hold on almost any portions of the map except for the bomb site itself.
It's also questionable setting the mirror up, right? She's usually one that you'd expect to be, well, turtled up. I think we're going to end up using that pun, so often. It's
Probably,
part of our natural vocabulary at this point. I bet it happens a number of times, but you expect the mirror to be one of those turtled up defenders. She's got that C4 in hand. She can leverage that either from beneath or from range. It's not really as useful in that position, nor is the fact that she is a one-speed with a very high fire rate gun, but one that can only really take one gunfight at a time. And if you're looking to, roam in penthouse of all places, you're going to need something a bit more deadly than that.
I mean, don't get me wrong, stranger things have happened, but as it's probably in Turtle Esports' best interest to not run into the same brick wall time and time again. You've tried out this particular strategy once, shake things up a tiny bit. This time we're going to see I'm not even exactly sure how to pronounce this Jaeger's name, apologies for that, who is going to be the mainstay over by the top of the main staircase as the E1D comes out, forcing him to remain in his position, which he will continue to do so. He is aware of the fact that Mahi is directly on rappel outside, but the question is, who's going to pull the trigger first?
He's sitting here very patiently as the bullets come through there from Mahi, and going to expose himself to a little pixel being held, but it's back and forth, and IVN decides to head for the hills. He's got the support of Kurt right below him on the other side of that doorway, and there we see Witsuka finding the first kill onto Torin. That's your Legion gone. No more goo mines for you, Torin.
Yeah, that's unfortunate. I mean, at least Turtle Esports have to thank their lucky stars that it wasn't the smoke of ICM to go down first, which would have been a really, really difficult position to claw your way out of. But this time around, Brown Esports, sure, the halfway point of the round has already been reached, and we've already surpassed it. They've managed to claim top floor control all to themselves, but as far as the man count goes, they aren't really having the same stroke of luck as they have had in the previous round. But nevertheless, Skills putting that sledgehammer to good work, narrowly misses out on the fact that one was inside a main lobby, but he spots the head and removes it, oh, so very swiftly.
In the midst of all that, Slacko also finding Poach through the floor. That's the Pulse doing some good work. And with 50 seconds left, we've got 3 defenders against the 4 attackers, and I'd say this is fairly even, to be honest. There's positional advantages for the defenders. Eidvin is still going to be a menace up here. Perhaps the call from the attackers is to focus on that bottom floor and just go for the execute and deal with the roamer later. That seems to be exactly the play coming out from Brown, as we can see the line rotating towards Pink Bar to try and get that long line of sight into Kitchen.
Wait, hang on a sec. Has Brown Esports completely forfeited control of the top floor? Yeah, they have. If Eidvian is actually onto their case, he could use that verticality to his advantage, but that's not really going to help them any longer, as Witsuka and Mahi each grab a kill for their own troubles. Mahi, the Zofia being injured in the process, can withstand, but Slacko is going to remove his head very swiftly. He's looking to challenge Temp as well. Diffuser has already gone down, but the pulse of Slacko is in a 1v3 situation. It's an extraordinarily steep hill to climb from this moment on. onwards. And with the UMP, you can't really expect to get all that much work done. And that is going to be Brown Esports taking their second round in a row on the exact same bomb site. It's clear as day that kitchen and service entrance really isn't the play for Turtle Esports.
As you can see here in the wonderful replay, the moment that Skits took the head off that player below him, very nice intel being fed to him there, that there was one behind that bar, or that reception desk rather, and just finding that pixel of the head is enough in this game. One bullet to the head through a floor, that's it, you're dead. So intel is everything. In case you're new round here, that's the name of the game. It's all intel.
Yeah, Siege 101, that's basically it. And obviously, if you are new to Siege, you have to keep in mind that this kind of intel is good for a maximum of 5 seconds, but you'll learn that on your own when you actually get some time in the game. But moving onwards and upwards, Turtle Esports, struggling with kitchen and service, they are now finally going to opt to move on to hookah and billiards, which is arguably the most defensive favored bomb site on the map, or at least the single bomb site where you have the highest chance of winning things outright. You can see that there are some drastic changes in terms of operator lineup. A Doc being brought to the table, also a Mozzie in lieu of a Mira being brought to the table, which should help them out with denying Brown Esports all of that info gathering potential, which by the looks of it, we know that they have done a relatively proficient job at using those drones to good use in the previous 2 rounds. So is this really going to be enough to put an end to Brown Esports? I really couldn't say so for myself.
I want to take a moment to just appreciate Witsuka here. It's on 4-0, as you know, most of the players on Brown, they're looking pretty nice stats-wise, because there hasn't been much from Turtle Esports in the way of frags. But Witsuka in particular, in that round, he took the time. If I was going to guess anything, I would say he's the one giving those calls. He's IGLing at the moment because he was just so comfortable, sat outside of VIP, sat outside of that kitchen window, timing those E1Ds to make sure that they were effectively used. And he's also picking up a fair few kills. He got that rotate into pink bar late on in that round and picked up another one from that position. And yeah, it just feels like Brown Esports are definitely coordinating to a level that Turtle aren't effectively dealing with right now.
Speak of the devil, look at that. Torn, unfortunately, being the first casualty yet again. The exact same lesion, losing his life, being the first to go down in round number 3 as well. Goo mines have been rendered entirely useless, and Brown Esports already off to, well, yet again, such an extraordinary start. 5-4, and they've got just under 2 minutes to, put their execution into motion. Slocko this time around, though, on the dock, will be trying to hold onto the cool vibe staircase, keeping those attackers at bay for as long as possible, but the drone will send him running out to the hills. But other than that, not all too much eventful going on at this particular moment.
No, you can imagine right now, it's Brown Esports just taking the time, drone through the building, make sure they have that entryway. It looks like as though they're actually getting into a tussle down here in office with the Mozzie, and Witsuka is going to be the one to find that kill, but Coach is punished on that retake by ICMN. No, in fact, that's a shot from above. Great awareness from the smoke, using that little angle to his advantage. Frag grenades sails in from the skilts in return, but it doesn't do enough. The smoke left on about 35 HP, I want to say.
Yeah, that was a bit of a Hail Mary, and if they would have managed to get the smoke off the playing field, it would have been so damn well for Brown Esports. He will be healed up to roughly 3/4 of his full HP, but Brown Esports maintaining that upper hand. They've only got 2 players to push on in through, and you can see they're already setting up for an eventual post-plan situation, as we've got 1 player, I believe that's Temp, already repelling outside of that outside of the billiards window, and they're going to be going for that default plant soon enough, as Temp will shut down Slocko, but ICMN gets the response, and now he's going to be forced to just lie down. Tosses out a Toxic Bake to try to deny the plant, but Skills chooses to stick it on instead. But it matters not, because Mahi, just creeping his way on in from the cool vibe staircase, will just outright kill the last remaining player on the side of Turtle Esports, and that is 3 attacking rounds in a row for Brown Esports.
Not just 3 attacking rounds in a row, but 3 plants in a row. And That's pretty impressive. As I was saying, it just goes to show that they are coordinated right here. They had 50 seconds left to execute in that 4 versus 2, and that's just so comfortable for the attack. Honestly, I think Turtle Esports need to step it up a little bit and make sure that they're supporting each other on these roams, because at the moment, they're not really in positions to refrag or to set up for crossfires even on these roams, and it's costing them early frags, and it's meaning that Brown Esports just have plenty of time in the late round to get that plant down.
Yeah, everyone, keep in mind, rule of thumb, you have got to make sure that you're within 3 seconds of another player. Either 3 seconds of running distance or 3 seconds of reaction time, but as soon as one of your teammates goes down, you have to get that refrag within 3 seconds, otherwise you are going to be at a severe disadvantage. And as you said, that is something which really isn't all too noticeable on the side of Turtle Esports. And Brown Esports, they are doing such a tremendous job of isolating these 1vx scenarios. They are not trying to challenge any of the Turtle Esports defenders completely solo. They're doing a really good job of establishing, you know, crossfires for themselves and actually taking up gunfights from very favorable positions, which at the end of the day seems to be the undoing of Turtle Esports, unless they can get their heads together and try something a bit more differently instead of choosing to adapt that kind of one-man army mentality and take the fight directly to Brown Esports and ultimately just losing out the rounds and losing their own lives in the process.
And you look at this round, you think, Kitchen again, is that really the call? But I'll point your attention in the direction of that operator lineup. We see a massive shake-up here on the side of Turtle. Idleon switching off that Jaeger, moving on to the Maestro. We're dropping the mirror. Kurt instead has moved on to the Jaeger role himself. And we got Torin on the Vigil. So lots of differences here between their previous Kitchen defenses and this new one. It looks as though they've also set up the site slightly differently, and this is going to be the job of Temp and well, everyone on the side of Brown Esports to scout that out and make sure that they understand this nut and how to crack it.
Yeah. I mean, I'm pretty sure that Brown Esports are really quick to adapt, but you have to keep in mind that Turtle Esports, they are dancing with the devil right now. And speaking of that, Kurt, very unfortunate opening death for him as Mahi is so quick to react. And he'll grab the opening frag. He's looking to make it a double and single-handedly removes both of the roamers on the side of Turtle Esports. So unfortunately for the Turtles, whatever they seem to be throwing the way of Brown Esports, they are ready to receive. They just can't get lucky.
Mahi and Temp on these entries so far have been incredibly effective, and I believe they've gotten the opening kill every single round, either one of the two of them. Kurt's also been on the receiving end of those quite frequently, so he needs to maybe adapt his playstyle. But look at this, it's a full rush in through Kitchen window. In fact, no, just the prone cover is there to take a kill, and Temp or Skilts also finding one for himself. Skilts with the final one, a flawless round as Brown Esports read into that setup perfectly, taking down the roamers, getting a plant down and forcing the engagements. And look at that, Skilts getting a freebie at the end.
Oh, that I don't even know what to say at this certain point anymore, Jerry. Just Mahi, oh my goodness. What an outstanding play from him. Really, really heads up to say the least. And even though Turtle Esports, they had that refrag potential on the table, you know, Kurt and the Vigil were within 3 seconds of each other, but as soon as Kurt had gone down, which to a certain degree was kind of his own undoing, because he didn't necessarily have to wide swing into the line of sights of Mahi. He could have just waited for the Zofia to try to cross through Hookah into that hallway and then basically, you know, walk into his own coffin. And by walk into his own coffin, I mean the crossfire that was established between the Vigil and the Jaeger. And as soon as Kurt had gone down, the Vigil decided to just, you know, sit still, holding the exact same angle, waiting for Mahi to walk into his line of sight, which he did, but he didn't get the frag. It's extraordinarily, I don't even want to say messy, it's just that Turtle Esports, they've got to get these things on lockdown. They've got to make sure that everything is as quick as snapping your fingers, that refrags coming bing bang boom, and that they don't let Brown Esports run away with these rounds, because that is what they are doing 4 times in a row. They are on their way to a flawless half, and Turtle Esports not really having the best stroke of luck at putting an end to that.
It wasn't just a flawless half either. It was a flawless round, or it wasn't just a flawless run so far. It was a flawless round in that 4th round to take it. So Brown Esports have got to be feeling this. I'm inclined to say, and I know it's early, we're only 4 rounds in, but I'm inclined to say that Turtle Esports, maybe they've been taken to a map here that they're not particularly comfortable on. This was Brown's choice, and honestly, so far we haven't seen much from Turtle besides the promising community poll at the very beginning. That's the only thing that gives me hope right now, is that some people out there really believe in this side, and they're watching this thinking, what is going on with this team? They're not playing to the level that we're expecting them to. Maybe it's just an on-the-day thing, but I feel like the map has something to do with it, personally.
Yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, you could also argue that Turtle Esports might just be an extraordinarily proficient attacker roster through and through, but we definitely have 2 more rounds to go through before we get to see a much more prominent version of Turtle Esports on the attack. But until then, the best that Turtle Esports can snack themselves out of this first half is a 2-4 split. It's in their best interest to give it their A game, but unfortunately, Kurt is going to be the first to go down. Those evil eyes will remain completely static for the remainder of this round.
It's Deja Vu once again taking down Kurt to start the round off. That being said, timing-wise, it looks as though Turtle Esports have done a slightly better job of wasting it. And a minute 15 with 4 on the board. I mean, it's not been a great half for them so far, but this is looking more promising than their previous rounds.
Yes and no, but we know for a fact throughout the previous 4 rounds that Brown Esports, they can perform under pressure regardless of how much time is actually left on that clock, even though finally getting a kill in response onto Coach, although it being the Nomad is not going to be the most impactful attacker frag you could hope to achieve, but nevertheless, there's 40 seconds left on the clock, and Torin so narrowly close to landing those headshots, but unfortunately for him, Skills will remain to fight another day. As Brown Esports, they do have full control of Aqua, and they are looking to set that execution in motion in just a moment of seconds.
We saw how pinned in Torin was there, and ICMN joining him is going to be part of that. He should be spending a tactic gas canister through the floor any second now. The cover goes down as the plant is being stuck, and it looks as though it will be successful. Idvin falls but is rezzed. Witsuka finding ICMN, and that's the smoke removed from players. These post-plant positions have been established by the attackers. It's a very tough retake now for Turtle Esports. The loss of the fight on the rappel, that could be huge as Slyko takes down Witsuka. Torin is downed on site, so it's an effective 2 versus 2 here. Still going to be confirming that kill from the rappel. Very low HP defenders, and they are exposed to this angle. Skills gets another. There's Dofia sweeping in behind, but it doesn't matter because Skills is going to do all of the work in that post plant. Impressive stuff from the Sledge here, working this angle perfectly in the post plant.
Really astounding execution from Brown Esports, and this just solidifies the fact that they are a team who can perform under pressure. And I'm not even talking about the kind of explosive stuff that you would see from the likes of the old roster of Vitality. I mean, this is just wow. It's kind of mind-boggling to say the least. And you know, usually you'd expect that clock would start to work as a 6th defender for the side of Turtle Esports, but Brown clearly doesn't see it that way. They clearly don't even acknowledge the clock to a certain degree. They just play their game. And Turtle Esports, unfortunately, they're in the passenger seat right now. They have to find a way to reestablish, or at least establish themselves, some sort of dominance over the opposing squad, because Brown Esports, they're just running away with it. They are 1 round away from getting that flawless opening half on the attacker side. And Turtle Esports, it's just a bit heartbreaking at a certain point.
It is a little bit, and you've got to say, just looking at the lineup once again, Turtle Esports looking to roll the dice again, find some other combination of pieces to the puzzle that might be able to solve the problem that they're in right now. They're 5-0 down, and they haven't looked convincing on any site here. They've only gone to Hookah and Kitchen. They're not even attempting double bars, and these are the reasons that, for me, it looks as though they just don't have a grasp of Coastline, on defense at the very least. And we're going to need to see something incredible from them on their attacking half to reassert this difference. If they want to come out of today with a win, they need to sweep 7 rounds in a row here. It's not looking likely.
Really isn't. And, you know, I did want to touch on a potential double bars pick, and obviously we know for a fact that double bars just becomes that much more easy to defend because you've got Wamai, but in this certain case, Wamai is banned, so that technically means the attackers would have a much easier time for going for that default plant over by the couches inside of Sunrise. So I guess that could be the main reason why Turtle Esports really don't want to even set a finger on the double bars bomb sites, and they just want to continue with what they know best. But it turns out that Brown Esports, they know it that much better.
So here's part of the issue that we were highlighting earlier. Slacker right now holding inside of Office, and besides those holograms, he doesn't really have anyone supporting him.
He's got the verticality from ICMN, I believe.
Yeah, he managed to get a kill like that last time round, though, so I really doubt that that's going to be enough to stave off the attackers as they come in and try and take this entry frag.
Yeah.
He is, granted, wasting a fair amount of time, but like you said, so far, that hasn't been a problem for Brown Esports going into the final execute. They are more than happy to spend as much time as possible dotting the I's and crossing the T's on their roam clear, and then have a fast final few seconds to make sure the plant goes down. They also seem to be reading into the fact right now that the site is virtually empty, and they're going for a rush execute. Here we go. The Ying leading the charge, trying to find some purchase on this site, and she's cleared it completely. Comes face to face with a clash now, and Skilts is the one to actually find those first 2 killed. Candelas go out, Witsuka laying down some of his own damage here, and the plant will surely go down pretty soon. Torin finding one from beneath, but he's immediately dispatched with, and it's all up to the clash in a 1 versus 4. This is never a scenario you want to see if you're a defender. He's going to walk straight into the waiting arms of the Ying. Temp leading that charge as the Candela-bearing goddess that he is. And that was an incredible read by Brown Esports.
That truly was. They managed to get a good understanding of the entire bomb site, the entire setup, and then they just picked every single one of these little mistakes in the setup apart and completely exploited them. I don't even think if exploiting it, if exploitation is the right term for it, they just went to town. There's no way to beat around the bush over here. They just went to town with Turtle Esports right there. And rightfully so, 6 rounds in a row. And at that certain point, yes, Turtle Esports, they may have had a better grasp on the entire bomb site than previous Hookah Billiards rounds, but they weren't fast enough to respond. And the moment that ICMN had actually lost his life, that's when everything started to collapse, because he was the sole gatekeeper of that Billiards bomb site, and the rest of the actual roster was over by those vases at the top of Cool Vibe Staircase, and they weren't quick enough to react to the rushing Ying at that certain points. It was just miraculous to see on the side of Brown Esports.
It really was, and I think we spent a lot of this match so far talking about how Turtle Esports have maybe fallen short. They haven't had the best game, but really Brown have just been playing out their minds, really. They've offered absolutely no opportunity for Turtle to strike back, and it's been utterly ruthless. I mean, we were saying before this game started, with the community poll of 93% of people in favor of Turtle Esports, and I believe that was like 67 votes or something, so it was no small sample size either.
Not at all.
It seems, you know, we were saying it probably won't be a 7-0, as that Twitter prediction would have suggested, and honestly, it looks like it might be a 7-0 in the other direction at this point, because
yeah,
I don't know. Brown Esports, they've set themselves up well here. They've got this Hookah defense, and I think Turtle Esports, whether they have the sort of statistical advantage going into an attack on Coastline first or not, they do not have the mental edge right here.
No, they really don't. And obviously, being on the attacking side now, it's a completely different story than being on the defense. But after suffering 6 losses in a row, I'm not exactly sure if they may have the the mental fortitude that is actually necessary to try to itch themselves even a couple of round wins overall. And okay, at this certain point, I'm not even sure what to even say, what to even talk about, besides the fact that they are trying to do... they're trying to make do with what is obviously in their plate right now. They've got 6 rounds to go if they want to get themselves at least a tie. And while they have managed to grab themselves some real estate, on the side of Brown Esports, they have got so many roamers and lurkers to play with that, by the looks of it, have yet to be droned out, have yet to be found out, whichever way you look at it.
So Turtle Esports making quite good progress here. They've already claimed control of Aqua. There's no one below to try and use a C4. Skilts would be the only one with that in pocket, and I don't think he's in position to do so. So it looks as though Brown Esports are actually taking a leaf out of Turtle's books in the sense and turtling up for the most part. Very little roam presence. There is one downstairs, as we can see, in sort of kitchen area. I believe that is the Vigil of Temp. You'd expect him to be on the roam if anyone, but he's not going to have very much effectiveness as all of Turtle's eggs are in this one basket. They find the Maestro first off, but Witsuka's there to find one in return, and there's that C4 taking out the diffuser and leaving Kurt and Torin in a 2 versus 4.
Turtle Esports practically just played into the hand of Brown Esports. You saw how quickly they were able to dismantle this entire execution. Within the blink of an eye, that scoreboard, or that kill feed I should say, had been immediately lit up, and Brown Esports, they are well on their way to getting themselves their first W so far. There's 15 seconds left. Temp will shut down Torin, and now it's all down to Kurt with the Blackbeard stuck inside of Aqua. Doesn't even have control or possession of that diffuser. He will manage to shut down both Skilts and Witsuka. He did manage to recover the diffuser, but with little to no time to actually plant it down. It's going to be Brown Esports taking a very decisive opening match for themselves. 7-0 is the final scoreline against Turtle Esports.
And that was just so dominant from Brown Esports. Their incredible attacking streak, getting 5 plants down in the course of that. And then the final round of their attack, they didn't even need to get a plant down because they just rushed through site and won it that way. So, and the round was over before they could even manage it. So, yeah. Hats off to Brown Esports, subverting at least the whole of Twitter's expectations. We didn't have much going into this besides that, and honestly, I think now teams in the rest of this Atlas Championship Series can look towards this match and see Brown Esports as a team to be reckoned with.
Yeah, truly so. Couldn't have took the words right out of my mouth, Jared. They are a force to be reckoned with, but obviously, I feel as if the majority of the matches that will soon transpire in front of us as the season progresses, I think that the majority of these teams will obviously take this as a warning sign. Do not take Brown Esports to Coastline, because then the chances of you getting utterly demolished are going to just skyrocket. I personally don't know what else to say